All right, so Joe, welcome to Indie Tea Demos to Discovery. I'm Peter Lancelotti, and we have with us here today Joe Boo of the Dog. Actually, Joe's from a variety of bands, and we're going to get into that. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks for having me, Peter. I'm glad to be here.
So, originally, you're a Chicago guy,
Yeah.
and your day job is being dressed in black vinyl with the firefighters.
Yes,
I
sir.
find that fascinating. What's the music scene like? Well, what was it like when you were growing up in Chicago? And when did you know that this was going to be a major part of your life?
I actually knew at a really young age. I had a cousin who was about 10 years, almost 10 years older than me. He was a drummer in a band in high school, hard rock stuff. So they were playing like late 60s, early 70s. I was probably 5, 6, 7 years old. I'm the oldest of four boys within 4 years. So my parents had a habit of dropping us off at my aunt and uncle's house just because they needed a break from four crazy kids. So I was privy to be kind of there for practices for my cousin's hard rock band all the time. And I'd always get in the way. They were always saying, Joe, come on, you got to move, man. I'd be standing right there in the middle of rehearsal, and I said, this is what I want to do. So my cousin actually gave me, my cousin who was a drummer, gave me my first microphone at 13. Now, it was a drum mic, so it wasn't a
A
great
drum
mic.
mic.
But
not,
yeah, but that's what I
not an
started out
expensive Shure or anything.
with. Not at all. Yeah, I got a hand me down drum mic, but it was a start. So it got the ball moving, and I started a band with a bunch of friends from high school and progressed from there. And I was hooked right from the start.
Well, I will say this: I was listening to your stuff on Spotify for the last couple of days. You have the perfect rock and roll voice. I mean, you
Thanks,
don't
man.
sound like anyone I could, compare you to, which is a good thing.
Cool.
And you are well, I mean, if I were to compare you with anybody, I would kind of go lean towards the Steven Tyler of Aerosmith kind of voice.
Awesome.
You know,
Awesome.
you really
I'm a
have
big
that
fan.
kind of powerful. You don't quite screech like him. That's
Right.
what my late husband used to say, that he screeched. And I said, yes, because opera singers don't screech, right?
Right. Right. Not at all.
Because he was into opera. Anyway, you cut your teeth on some serious bands: Strychnine, Monkey First, the Michael Ray Band, Easy Action. Take me back to those early days. What was each of those experiences like for you as a vocalist?
Well, like it was for most people in the early days when you first start singing, you're doing a lot of cover work. So it was all cover bands early on. Strychnine was the first. Well, Geneva was the first attempt at kind of dabbling at writing and recording. And that band included Rob Chrisman, who was also the guitarist in Rain of Fire, a band that I started in 2020. He and I played together for about 5 years, and the band dissolved last year. But Rob was a very, very prolific guitarist. He was kind of a prodigy, 16, 17 years old, writing a lot of really good material. In fact, a couple of those songs ended up becoming kind of rewritten and redone with Rain of Fire. So Rob and I had a band called Geneva for about 2 years. So we were writing, but also doing a lot of cover work. It was really Strychnine that I spent the bulk of my time doing a lot of writing. I've probably in the last say 30 some years, I've probably written 500 songs.
Whoa,
Wrote a
that's
good.
more than me, and I'm older than you.
I was nonstop. I was really nonstop. So I probably wrote a good 60, 70 songs with Strychnine alone.
What are all of your? Do you strictly stay in the rock and roll realm, or do you do other genres?
I was in a blues band for a little while called Cold Busted. So we dabbled in kind of uh, a little of the Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton esque styles of music with blues because I'm a Chicago boy, so you have to have some tinge of blues if you're in Chicago. Half the clubs in Chicago are blues clubs.
Well, yeah, if I
So
was in Chicago, I would say the Windy City would have me depressed most of the time. So,
it is. So you are deep in the blues, man. You know what? Honestly, it's a great city, and the summers there are better than anywhere in the world. But the winters last forever, and they're cold and dingy, overcast, and you suffer from light deprivation. And a lot of people suffer from depression. So it's understandable why it's a blues town. But yeah, so I wrote some blues. Then I went with Strychnine, wrote a lot of rock. I worked with the Michael Ray Band. They had a whole album of material. They asked me to sing for them. They were a little older than I was. Guitarist had a label interest, and they had a whole album worth of material. So they asked if I'd front the band and record with them. So I ended up doing that album. It was the first full blown album I'd ever recorded. It just went to cassette and it never got picked up by a label. So it sat for a while. And 30 years later, I finally tried to track down the bass player. He was the one who I worked with the most in the band, only to find that he passed away. In fact, that's how I found him. I found his obituary online. So I reached out to his wife, who was a wonderful lady. I'd known her for a while when I was working with the guys. And, I said, hey, Wendy, I don't know if you remember me. This is Joe Booe. I played with Mike in the Michael Ray band 30 years ago. She's like, oh, my God, Joe, of course, we all remember you.
You're a memorable guy, facially.
So, well, it was a really good time for all of us. They were older than I was, but we had a lot of fun together. And so I asked her if it would be all right for me to re-record and re-release the album. So
I'm actually doing something similar. Not exactly. I was with a record label over 35 years ago, but they went defunct, and now
okay.
I'm using all of those songs in remastering using LALAL.ai, which splits
Cool.
it all into stems. And,
Right.
and I'm using Studio One Pro 7, which our mutual friend Aaron Leet has been very patient in teaching me how to use Studio
Aaron's a
One
great
Pro
guy.
7. When I started recording, I was using Audacity, and he goes, "Okay, yeah, you can do that." And he was very, very polite about not going like, "Oh God, really?" It's Audacity. That's like, no, Peter, no.
Yeah.
But anyway, you eventually you came to Los Angeles for 7
Yes, I did. In '99.
What brought you to the West Coast, and what were you chasing at that point in your career?
Well, I'd moved to Florida first, so I ended up in LA by way of Key West. A couple buddies of mine, we decided we wanted to get out of Chicago, get away from the weather, and one of the guys bought a sailboat down in the Keys. So we used to go down there on vacation a lot. We were all single at the time, so we figured, all right, let's do this while we can, while we're still young enough. So we moved to the Keys with the intent to play music. And about 6 months into it, I realized it wasn't a place for me, wasn't a place for my skill set. I've had a personal training business for a long time, so I work in fitness.
I can see that. I can see that.
Well, thanks, man. And my girlfriend at the time had gotten into Playboy. She ended up becoming a centerfold for Playboy. So she convinced me to come with her to LA. She said, "You're wasting your time and your talent in Key West. Come with me. Let's see if we both can't, make some form of career out of what we want to do." So we moved to LA a couple months after we got there. We split up. She left. I stayed because I ended up kind of meeting the guys from 7 months, and we were pretty dialed in by the time she and I split up. So rather than vacate LA, move back to Chicago or Florida, I figured I'm going to give it a run with these guys. So I was there for 4 years. We did a 9-song album, self-titled, that did really well in Europe. And we were working on a sophomore album, and I ended up getting a vocal cord injury.
I was going to ask you that. After
Yeah.
LA, you said you suffered a vocal cord injury and you couldn't sing for 7 years.
Right.
Was that due to being a firefighter? I mean, did you do some like serious inhalation of smoke?
Not at all.
Okay.
I wish it were something as glamorous as that. What had happened was I played a show with 7 months, went into the studio to do some recording for another band called Equinox. They were a band out of Minnesota. Their singer had exited the band. They had done fairly well with an initial album. They were doing a second album, so they were looking for someone to sing on the second album. So I had made friends with their keyboardist, Eric Ranyo. So Eric had the guys fly out. They heard me sing with 7 months. They liked how it sounded. We went in the studio. I sang all day, and then I played another show with 7 months that night. So basically did almost 24 hours of singing. And
wow,
the
that's
stuff
a lot
that
of singing. I mean, when do you sleep?
It was crazy. It was really stupid. But, like so many young people, you think, oh, my voice is bulletproof.
And at the time, indestructible at that age. I'm 64. The older I get, the less I know. When I was 24, I knew everything.
Is that a fact? We are so smart when we're young, man. And we humble ourselves as we get older. Well, at the time, I thought, this should be no problem. I went to hit a high note on the second night of singing with 7 months, and I felt the pop. And the guys heard it, and they're like, all kind of looking at me like, what was that? I said, I have no idea, but something happened in my throat. It hurts. So we finished the show. It was right around the holidays, took a little break for the holidays, came back to start working on recording. And it was very evident because everything's naked and recording. You hear the stripped down voice by itself, and it was bad.
Did you go to the
So I started
doctors?
working.
What was it called? What happened?
I had a tear in my one of my vocal cords. So
Oh.
I went and saw a laryngologist. They told me, yeah, you've done some damage to your vocal cords. So I was working with the head of voice from what used to be Musicians Institute. I don't even know if it's still around. And I was also working with the bass player's cousin who had just graduated from UC Santa Barbara in voice. She was an opera singer. So she was coaching me, and then Musicians Institute guy was coaching me.
What's your vocal range? Because when I was listening to your material, it was kind of hard to tell. I mean, you sound like you have like maybe well, I have a 4 octave vocal range now. I used to have a 5, and people seem
Yeah, I'm about three and a half.
3.5.
Yeah.
On a good day, I have 4.
Yeah, right.
You about
Right.
3.5. I mean, at our age, how old are
Right.
you? 60?
I turned 61 next month.
So Pisces or Aries?
Pisces.
So I am a big fan of the Steve Klatt project. I think you have 5 songs out with them, and you're dropping a
Right.
6th later this month. And I also have some inside information from the Dashing Skull Club about what else you're doing in March.
Yes.
We
Yes.
won't get it. I won't say anything yet because I know I'll just tease the audience.
Yeah. Very excited about it. And the project is now called
I've already heard it, by the way.
Oh, awesome. Good.
I like
And the
I like
project
it
is
a lot.
called Soundstone. We actually nailed down a name yesterday. So it's going to be called Soundstone.
Aaron's the one that put me in touch with you.
Right. So I'm glad he passed the song on to you. I kind of figured he would.
I loved it. He's such an amazing audio engineer.
He is.
I don't know if you know the story, but I had to convince him to start DSC Labs Productions.
Oh, no
He didn't
kidding.
do it. He said, "Who'd come to me?" I'm like, "Really?" I mean, the guy can rival record company
Yeah.
audio engineers. But
Yeah.
well, I'm glad he finally did it. Anyway, Steve Platt. What does he bring out in you? Because I noticed when I was listening to some of that, you sound a little bit like different, not as well, less reserved.
It's well, 7 months was a progressive rock band as well. Uh, when you're working in progressive rock, it's a little more jazz oriented. It's a little rangier. Usually the progressions are a little more difficult. So I'm writing to stuff that's not 3 chord 4/4. So Steve does some pretty intricate stuff. So it kind of takes me out of the box and challenged me a little bit more, kind of like 7 months did.
I'd like to get him on the show. You had also a long-running collaboration with Storm Kingdom.
Yes,
10
still do.
songs together and an 11th in the works.
Yes.
What keeps that marriage going on?
Justin Holforty is Storm Kingdom. He does everything. Very prolific musician. He plays everything. He's been playing since he was a kid. He does music that's very much like soundtrack music. It reminds me of Tangerine Dream.
So does Afira, and I've done 2 collaborations with her. Oh my God, she's just. I have been idolizing her for a couple of years, and when she asked me to do 2 songs with her, I was like over the moon. One of them, she just did the orchestration, and she said, "Here, Peter, write the lyrics, write the music, write the lyrics, and sing it any way you want." Sing it any
if
way
I were
you want.
if I were going to identify 2 icons in the indie community that would fall into the same category, they would be the 2, because it's very unique. Not many people do what could be considered soundtrack music. I've always considered Tangerine Dream to be kind of the top of the mountain.
I like
And
what they did with John Anderson from Yes,
yeah,
did the movie Legend. But
right.
another one, a couple of others I would have to mention would be The Sanctity of Crows, Ian, and
Yes, Ian's awesome.
and His Theory. They also do that kind of huge
Right. Right.
orchestration. I mean, I remember I wrote a newsletter last year, and I said about Afira. She never corrects me. But anyway, I said, if you want a glimmer of Hans Zimmer, simmer with a cup of tea. And she wrote to me, she's like, really? Really? A little poetic there, Peter. And that's what I said about it. I mean, man, her material just blows the
Yeah.
doors out of it. We did Sweet Transvestite for the Rocky Horror Picture Show for Gay Pride Month. Then we did an original. I'm in a video.
Nice.
Did you see the video?
No, not yet. You told me about it last night. We were
Oh
talking.
my God. I kind of look at myself and I'm like, Oh, you really do look in your 60s. Um, I mean, I work out and stuff, but I mean, you can't change this.
Well, I was going to say, for all of us, we're on the same age. You can't change this unless
Oh,
you have a lot of work done.
my new best friend is Neutrogena. I mean. All right, let's talk a little bit about.
Well, you had mentioned Ian from Sanctity of Crows. We kind of have a song on the back burner. I've
He
been so
won't come on
busy.
the show. He won't show. He sent me a
That guy
picture of
is
him.
fantastic. He's fantastic. And
He's a
and
shy. He's a shy man.
Charles from His Theory, he and I have talked at length too about at some point doing a project together. So both of those guys I plan on working with when I get the opportunity because they're
Man,
both
you
incredible
you
talent.
you must be in demand because I think I'm a good vocalist, but I think you're better.
I
Let's
I don't know
talk
about
about let's talk about you with Voodoo Mirage, Switchflame, and Joe Boo and the Dog.
okay.
Three very
Uh,
active bands. So give us a
right.
rundown. How are they different from each other, and what is it that you find appealing about working with each of them?
Okay. Well, I'll go chronologically then. Joe Boo and the Dog is myself and Tim Curtis. He's the dog. His nickname has been Sea Dog forever since high school because his last name is Curtis. So letter C,
Do you
Dog.
follow Pavlov's? No, sorry.
He's this guy. If you ever saw him, he looks a little bit who's the crazy artist, black hair, curly mustache. Um, I
Oliver
can't remember.
Marks.
I can't remember, but he looks kind of like Captain Morgan. Okay,
Ah,
now this is the guy who owns the
as in
sailboat.
Spice Rum guy.
Right, right. This is the guy who owned the sailboat. So he's one of the guys that I moved to Key West with. I've known Sea Dog for 35 years. Now he and I have been writing music and recording together for almost that long. So we had a huge body of music together, and it was very eclectic because Sea Dog doesn't really follow any rules. He just does whatever he feels like doing. And so he would always call me, Joe Boo, I need you, man. I need you. I need you. I've got this song I want to
I
work on.
need you, man. I need you.
Yeah. So we've been good buddies for a long time. So at some point in listening to a collection of pieces that he had sent to me that he wanted me to work on, I said, you know what? You've got a couple here that I want to work on, but we also had a whole bunch of songs that we've recorded over the years that I think we should probably resurrect and now modernize. We'll redo them because now we have the means with modern technology and we'll do them better. So we decided to collaborate for a long-term project and we put out two 12-song albums. So I really like working with Tim. He's a great guy and a good friend of mine.
Do you do
So
you all do you work with all of your collaborations? Do you use like the DAW where you record your stem and then you have
yes,
it in Dropbox and then they download it and do their
yes.
thing?
So
That's
Dropbox
what
has been
I
critical.
am so amazed when I got back into the industry about a year and a half ago. I'm so amazed
You're
at
not
tracks
kidding.
with vocals.
You're not kidding.
You know,
It's a great thing, but it's also not a great thing because it keeps too many bands from working in the same room and working spontaneously.
well,
You get
that's also usually a problem because I've talked with a couple of other guests
yeah,
where, like for example, Dennis Hewlett, getting everyone in the same room, even though they're geographically close by, everybody's
yeah,
got separate lives, everybody's got
right,
things to do, and scheduling time. Even the same
right,
thing with Dashing Skull Club. They
right.
all have different jobs, different lives. In fact, Rubber Knuckle was supposed to be on the show, but Jody, and Paul,
Yeah,
I messed up. I was supposed to call them, and I forgot. My bad, my bad. Hey, mistakes happen, and that's what I think a lot of people like about my shows, that I'm pretty real, and I tell them what I know and what I
right
don't
on,
know.
right on.
So I messed up. We're going to do it again though in a couple of weeks. But I know, like with the advent of the DAW,
Yeah,
it is so easy to do so many
absolutely.
collaborations. I've never met Afira. I've never even met the guitarist who was on the track "It's All Made Up." It blows my mind.
Yeah,
As John of Whiskey Club was saying, is if you start right at the very beginning, start at zero, even though there's silence until your part comes in, it's so easy to put
it
everything
is.
together afterwards.
It is.
So that's how you're primarily doing work with all of these collaborative.
That's how every single one of the things that I've been working on for the last 7 or 8 years has been accomplished. Like a lot of the stuff that Tim Curtis and I see Joe Boo and the Dog had done, we had pre-recorded, but then we redid it anyway. Back then, we were working on 4-track recordings. Then we were working on ADAT with 7 months. With Strychnine. With Strychnine, we were performing all the time. So I had sung those songs 3,000 times before we went in the studio. So for almost every single song I did with Strychnine, it was a single take because I knew the song so well. I didn't need to go back over it.
That's
I do
funny
a
you
single
mentioned
take and it
that.
was done.
That's so funny you mentioned that because when Afira approached me to do Sweet Transvestite from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the cover, um, I did it in a couple of days. And when I sent her, I even did the background vocals, which she changed my voices to using LALAL. I sounded like Taylor Swift and Lady Gaga. Honestly, I thought, what the hell did she do to my voice? But anyway, when I did it, she was shocked. She goes, "What are you, Tim Curry's cousin?" Well, I had a little secret. I did it in a band 35 years ago, so I had a little practice.
Yeah, right. And that, that as much as I love today's technology making it possible to write and record like this, you lose some of that element of really being immersed in the song because you could sing it in your sleep. And that's one of the things I enjoyed about the Strychnine albums, even the 7 months albums, the 7 month album. When I did 7 months, that album we had recorded 7 months after the band got together. That's where kind of the name came
I was
from.
going to ask you, like, that's a weird name for a band, but now you're just
Yeah.
okay.
Well, they had been together as an instrumental group for 7 months, and then they searched for another 7 months for a singer and couldn't find one. And then we spent 7 months writing and another 7 months recording. So we had this recurring theme of timeline. So we said, let's just call the band 7 months. But yeah, we had plenty of time to rehearse the songs. And so when I got in the studio, it was the same thing. I was able to bang them up.
When I was reading the notes, I thought, is the name of the band 7 months? Oh, was he in LA for 7 months?
So now today, with everything I'm doing, like Rain of Fire, we did a 6 song EP, but we were putting out a song a year. So it wasn't moving quickly. So that's how Voodoo Mirage got founded. Voodoo Mirage is Randy Nitch and Jesse Laraquente. They're in Chicago. Now, Randy and I played together in Monkey Fist. That was one of the songs, or one of the bands that I had sent to you. So Monkey Fist was Tim Curtis, who's also in Joe Boo and the Dog. A guy named Chris DeWitt, he was our drummer. Tim Curtis played bass, and Randy Nitch was the guitarist. So I've been getting in touch with Randy for about 2 years before the founding of Voodoo Mirage, because we had a bunch of Monkey Fist songs that I wanted to redo, kind of like Joe Boo and the Dog did. And Randy was working with Saint Tragedy. He and Jesse Laraquente were both in that band. And he said, look, I got a lot going on. He had lost his father. He lost his brother to cancer within 2 months. He went through a divorce and it was contentious. So he was going through a rough patch. And then he finally just reached out to me. He said, Joe, I've got 4 songs. They're completely finished. I recorded them in Cherry Pit Studio. The music is all done. Drums, bass, guitar. I'm sending you the music. Write whatever you want to it. Do your background vocals, because I like you. I do lead vocals. I do background vocals. I do everything. So the first 4 songs ended up being our 4-song EP, Realigned. So it's a song, Realigned, Demons, You're Not There, the song that I sent to you, and Left in the Middle. So now we're completing the second EP, which is going to be a 6-song EP. So Randy does the same thing. He'll go in the studio, he records, then he sends it to me. If we need to make any orchestrational changes, then I'll let him know in terms of composition, maybe we need to shorten this section, or let's get rid of this completely, or double this up. I think it'll work better. I'll sing here in a bridge pre-solo. I won't sing in the post-solo if you want to do something there. So, so we'll kind of mess around with it after he's gotten a chance to write and record it. And then I do all the lyrics and
vocals. In addition to your vocals, do you play any of the instruments on any of the tracks?
I don't. No. All I do is sing.
Because on my solo stuff, I do everything.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, keyboards, guitar. There was even a time back in the day I was using a Roland TR-707 as a drum machine. That's how old I am. Okay, there's a couple of new projects with Soundstone.
Yes, also Switch Flame.
I just heard about Burlos, and of course, one of my favorites, the Dashing Skull Club. I already know about that one.
Yeah, and Switch Flame,
Soundstone, and Burlos.
Switch Flame is a band between myself and Ian Poole, who's from Australia. He plays guitar for Trick Shot. And Ian reached out to me about a year ago because I was going to try and play the Punk in the Corn show. But because everybody I work with is virtual, I couldn't put together a band. Well, Ian told me, look, I'll play guitar for you. So he and I became friends. So then he told me, look, I've got Trick Shot is more of kind of an 80s glam rock band. I've got a bunch of metal stuff your voice would be perfect for. If you're interested, I'll send you a bunch of tracks. So he sent me about 12 songs. And he said, just pick and choose what you like. I said, I like them all. Let's do an album. So he and I just released our second song this past Friday. There's about 4 or 5 other songs that are mostly finished. He's got a third song I sent to him. He's going to finish mixing it, send it back to me, and I'll master it. and that will be released.
Oh, you do the mastering on the DAW?
Yeah, and I do a lot of mixing too. So all the Joe Boo and the Dog stuff I mix, all the Voodoo Mirage stuff I mix and master, and then a lot of with the other artists. A lot of the other artists they do it themselves.
Because I'm considering in some point in the near future of getting sponsorships and all of the instruments that we mention here on the show, what particular DAW do you use? I use PreSonus Studio One Pro 7.
I use Cakewalk.
Cakewalk.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, there's another thing I wanted to talk about in terms of your collaborations. Tom McElman, the Stars.
Yes.
They've been getting a lot of airplay on the internet radio and podcasts. I'd like to get them on the show. And there's another track coming. How did you connect with Tom?
Tom had posted on Facebook that he had a couple songs that he'd written, and he was struggling with the vocals. He couldn't kind of really come to terms with what he wanted to write, how he wanted to write. So he asked if anybody was interested in collaborating.
Hey, if I can't get you, have him call me, please.
Absolutely.
I've only been doing this for 9 months since I got back into the industry.
I'll tell you what, Tom is an awesome guy, and he and I have been working together now for a couple years.
I mean, I can't do what you do. I mean, I'm not a screecher.
Well, I don't know that he loves screechers. With his stuff, I don't screech. Tom's a pretty conventional, almost like R&B blues rock kind of guy. So, but he and I have become really, really good friends. So yes, he's got a radio show on Friday nights called Sounds from the Basement. But Tom had posted that he was looking for somebody. So I responded. He and I and Christina Vox did a song together called Wicked Woman. He and I,
Vox and the Sticks?
Vox and Sticks, yes. So she and I did a duet on it. I wrote the lyrics and melodies, and she sang her part. And then Tom and I continued. We did another song called Give Me the Rain under the band Shadow Band. The three of us had kind of formed a band that didn't really stay cohesive. He and I decided to continue on our own. And we've released 3 other songs since then. Paper Lion, Slipping Away, and Ceasefire. And now we have a new song coming out called Always Wondered Why. And we have another couple that are in the works. We're also working on a project song with Elaine J, who's a fantastic drummer and vocalist in her own right. She's an incredible musician. She just played drums and I'm sorry, not drums. She just provided background vocals to the new song that I'm releasing with Steve Klatt called Runaround. And she and I and Steve are working on 2 covers. We're going to do a cover.
But everybody's involved with everybody.
I do too.
This is something that I was curious about. You juggle a lot of projects simultaneously. How do you keep each one distinct? I mean, do you have to do sort of a mental shift when you go from one thing to another?
I don't, not really. I get asked. I've done tons and tons of interviews, radio interviews and podcast interviews, and even print. And a lot of times they ask me the same question. And truthfully, what I do is, even from a lyrical
perspective, you mean my question wasn't original?
it is, but it's just universally original. The thing is, and I mean, some people have preconceived notions about, I want to write about this subject, or this has meaning to me. I don't. What I do is I let the music tell me a story. I listen to it. That's what I liked about working with Storm Kingdom. That's what I've liked with working with Tom, Voodoo Mirage, Rain of Fire, all of them. I'll listen to the music for a while and I'll immerse myself in it and I let it tell me the story. Okay. Now, the only difference is like Storm Kingdom, he'll already have names for him. So I stay true to the name, but I let the music tell me a story. And then the vocal approach, intonation, timbre, range, all of that is basically predicated on, what key is it in? What's the chord progression? And then what's the feel of the song? Is it something that's more R&B? Is it something that's more metal? Is it gritty? Is it emotional? So then I'll base my approach on how the music feels and whether or not the storyline fits what I'm going to vocally.
Let's shift gears for a second. In terms of this show was created to create community so that we can align ourselves with the algorithms because we don't all have large marketing budgets. And the more we cross promote one another, my audience will hear your music, your audience will hear my music. What do you see happening right now in the independent music world right now that excites you or concerns you?
Well, I'm more excited than I am anything. The only thing that concerns me is the stranglehold that the streaming platforms have on all of us. I hate the fact that so much of us are dependent on Spotify primarily. Pandora, Apple Music, Amazon. Those are the big four. YouTube, I think, offers a little bit more opportunity, but I also don't like the fact that so much of our marketing approach is dedicated to platforms like Facebook. It makes it difficult for us to really kind of capitalize on, who's going to. Are there a number of resources that we can use for social media to get our name out, to get our music out, get the word out? I recently got kicked off of Facebook because I was over promoting.
So I've been banned for 8
yeah.
I'm coming out with a song on February 6th. They banned me on the 1st. I can't say anything until February 8th. I'm so
that sucks
right now. I can't even tell you. I can't even announce my own song coming out on Friday.
Peter, I had 10 band pages on Facebook in my own profile. I had 4,500 followers for Rain of Fire, 3,000 for Voodoo Mirage. That's all gone. Poof. Like that.
They just, and it's all run by the algorithms. I used to say to people, have you ever seen the movie Terminator when Skynet became self-aware and started killing us militarily? No, they're not going to do that now. What they're going to do is they're going to kill us with high blood pressure and a heart attack, and you're going to die right there on the floor. And they'll ban you.
With the push of a button, too. So yeah, that's the one thing that concerns me for the indie community. But what I'm really excited about is, like you were saying, so many people working with so many other people. It is truly a community, and so many people know each other now.
I would say know everybody. I mean, I'm just so surprised at how quickly, like a sunburst, like a supernova. All of a sudden, I know all these people. I think I said on my last solo episode, I've had a lot of conversations with people like 6 and 7 times, and I don't know their name. And I figure at that point, it's sort of rude to say like, "Hey, by the way, what's your name?"
What's your name?
Okay. I was going to ask you about the links, but I did find them myself. So I have one last question for you before our time is out here. After everything you've been through, the injury, 7 years of silence, your comeback, what keeps you walking back into the booth and hitting record?
Probably the same thing that brought you back to it too. It's when it's in your blood, you cannot, it's there forever. This was something that I started when I was a little kid and always told myself I wanted to do it. I actually went through a depression for the 7 years that I wasn't singing, but I redirected. And when I lived in LA, I wasn't a fireman. I became a fireman when I came to Florida because I had to redirect my attention, my focus. And so that became a passion, but nothing replaces music ever. And it can't.
I'm not laughing about the fire thing. The reason I'm sort of chuckling here is the song that I did with the fire, the original, It's All Made Up, is a spoof on the LA fires because it's like, oh, our men in black vinyl cannot seem to find hydrant water. And I was just like, when I heard you were a fireman, I'm like, I gotta tell him this.
Awesome.
Anyway, I want to thank you so much, Joe, for taking some time out. Joe Booe, everyone, who I can't even name all of the bands he's involved in, but if you've been listening to the episode, you now know. And we are now starting to hear a song that he sent to us, which I will name in a moment when I look at my email.
It's called You're Not There.
You're Not That's There. That's the one you sent me, okay.
Yes.
And once again, Joe, thank you for taking the time out in your very, very busy schedule. You are listening to Indie T Demos to Discovery with your host, me, Peter Lancelotti, and our guest, Joe Booe.
Peter, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
I tried to shut it out, but it's coming out.